At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought.
And welcome to the Author Your Brand Show. You're going to want to take notes. And if you don't take notes, you can click below and get your notes for this episode and enjoy it. Got a great guest on today. He's been a longtime friend, client, author, consultant, coach. He's got a lot of insight and perspective on some issues that you may or may not know about, but I found him fascinating in terms of the health and how we integrate ourselves with the world here. So without further ado, introduce Coach Stefan Rudolph. Stefan, how are you today?
I'm doing great, Doug. I really appreciate all your connections and help over the years. Doing a great job and getting my word out there and the message I have. So author, speaker, life coach, recovery coach, and even epilepsy coach. Focusing on that.
We're going to talk about all that and some of the things that people look at in terms of obviously there's a lot of discussion and controversy about the medical industry and holistic and all that stuff. We'll cover all of that in more detail, but I think people will be very fascinated to know your background because you've got a personal vested experience on a lot of these things. So give me about 5 minutes on this roller coaster journey of yours so people get a perspective on who they're listening to today.
50 years and 5 minutes, 1 minute,
yeah,
1 minute per decade.
You got it.
The normality of it is I did everything society told me to do. I got my degree, I got married, I got the $1 million home. Everything was very successful for the first third of my life, ironically, 32 years. Married my high school girlfriend, followed the path in life successfully, financially. Ended up in the corporate world, worked for one of the top pharmaceutical companies in the nation at the time, 20 years back. Sold some drugs, make some money. I say, the legal drugs, and did very well in sales, was one of the top sales reps in 2000 to 2002, but ended up getting a DUI. So this is kind of part of my story is I've always had that alcohol addiction, that escapism, the why me-ism. Sometimes there's faults of others, but at the same time, I used to blame others every time I had a problem. And I found out later, it took me 7 years to wake up to a new reality that I had an addiction. I had a problem. Now, I was a functioning alcoholic for years, but getting a DUI in pharmaceutical sales with a company car is not good. Lost the job. And within 3 years, going from 6 figures, $1 million home, again, overlooking Disneyland and Anaheim, Angel Stadium, everything there. I had it all. And then 3 years, I lost it all. I was living with my parents at 35 years old because epilepsy returned. Going back to high school, I had a high school football injury. I was in a coma for 3 days back in 1988, but I was on medication for many years. So the medication and the alcohol don't mix, but I did function very well, up until a point of divorce, stress, anxiety, and ended up getting in 2 epileptic car accidents in 2004, not alcohol related, but it's pretty much lifestyle related. And within a year, I'm living with my parents, and I had to have brain surgery in 2007. During that time, I got another DUI, destroyed my life, was looking at a complete homelessness, and almost I wasn't suicidal, like in the sense of killing myself, but when you drink yourself to death, that's the same thing. I sobered up for the brain surgery, and that was called left temporal lobe awake craniotomy. I'm blessed to have some hair, so you don't see that. And, at my age, I'm blessed to have that. But they cut this area open and removed the damaged tissue from the football injury in 2007. So May 9th, 2007, I was sober a year. I was good, got all my ducks in a row, so to speak, with the ducks out here in life. And this is something that I was doing very good at, but I fell off the wagon again in 2008. So after brain surgery, started drinking about 6 months later and got another DUI. So I had 3 DUIs in 5 years, going from having it all to losing it all. And the next 4 years were just insane. I was doing well financially in sales, but I was just drinking every night. And it came down to the point where I was having kidney problems, the shakes, the DTs. You've seen people having those problems. But I wasn't one of those. I was always thinking like, I have a problem, but I don't have a problem. I was going to meetings because I had to because of my DUI, AA meetings. But at the same time, I shifted and ended up getting a 4th DUI in 2012. So 4 DUIs in 11 years. I spent 6 weeks in jail. I woke up. Spiritually, I started just saying, that's it. It's over. I'm done being done. No excuses, no pointing fingers. Wayne Dyer put it best. 1 finger pointed out, 3 fingers pointed in. So I was a big Wayne Dyer fan, big Louise Hay. I was going to all these seminars like Born Again. And part of my book too, I call it Control Alt Delete, reset your mind, reset your life. And less blame, more gain. I didn't want to blame anybody else. I was done being done, tired of being sick and tired. Within 3 years, I wrote my first book called Living with Heart. I was co-authored in a book with Les Brown, of all people, big name speaker out there. And so this was kind of a marketing area where I got a chapter, I got my book out there, I'm doing some coaching, and life coaching became part of my life. Recovery coaching became more part of my life. And I found out epilepsy coaching. People heard my story on YouTube and online. All over the world, I'll get messages. Now, it's not a big financial gain. It's always coming from the heart, because epileptics are usually struggling. They just want to hear a voice out there that knows what they're going through. Alcoholics do well in AA. Epileptics do well with me because I can understand. 25 years of epilepsy. And after the surgery, going back, I did have seizures again while I was drinking. Even after the surgery, I had more epilepsy. I cracked my head open in the weight room, in the locker room, in the racquetball courts. I was a mess. But upon sobriety, got back in the court, even with an ankle bracelet on, ironically, got back in the racquetball courts, worked out, ended up winning gold medals nationally in 2017 for racquetball. So I won the A division singles racquetball in Arizona. Everything just took off. And at the same time, I was still struggling financially, but my passion in life, it wasn't about the money yet, physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. And I found that calling. And in 2019, I started writing my second book, Thank You to the 1000th Power. And I called it that because I was just like, thank you, God, for this. Thank you for the obstacles. Thank you for my biological father not being there. Thank you for the divorce. Thank you for the jail. Thank you for the homelessness. 2 hernia surgeries, a pulmonary embolism, 3 endoscopies, 20 plus years of epilepsy, 3 or 4 epileptic car accidents. I should have died. Okay. And I was basically just saying, I didn't want to die anymore. I want to live. And it didn't matter about finances. The ego in me said, you're a loser. You had everything financially. Now it's gone. I said, no, I'm starting over. And a big part of the book I wrote is from the FUs to thank yous. And so I said it with the abundance of thought and heart, by living with heart, like in my first book, what Les Brown was in, and then coming to passion and making it a reality. This took me 5 years total. Now, I wasn't like working every day on it, but in lockdown, I did. So 2 years in lockdown, I was literally just thriving on it and put all my passion into it, and then did it on Audible and Spotify. So I did an audio. I don't even know what happened during lockdown. I was just like, come home after work in the zone and help others in assisted living in the day, help others in my writing at night, back and forth. And I listen to it myself. I'm not saying I'm bragging, but sometimes I'm like, God, I can't remember that. It's pretty amazing to hear someone's story when you hear Louise Hay, again, Les Brown, Wayne Dyer, all these authors, John Assaraf. I was amazed at what they went through and how they overcame it. And that's my story to connect with people now. And that's where I shifted into the 5 minutes of my life, and now help others do the same, reset their mind, reset your life.
I love that. It's such an inspiration. You've certainly been through your fair share of the challenges, and coming out of it, clean, sober, straight, and successful is rare. And people should definitely pay attention to that, because it's not the same. Everybody's situation is unique, even though they have a common thread. I think it's really great that you're, advocating for that, not just living it, but for others as well. That's a servant leadership.
Yeah, and getting that message out there. I appreciate your help in that. I speak at schools now. By the way, I was on TEDx, and it was filmed in February. It should be out here in July. So it was just amazing for me in Escondido to come back here to my hometown and to speak right across the park where I used to play Little League, where I almost ended up homeless, ironically, at Great Day Park. But I didn't. I came back, and just an epiphany took place and a new life.
I'm really curious about the epilepsy thing, because epilepsy, I don't know much about it. I just feel like it's such a out of your control type of thing, right? Your body is starting to do these things. How do you deal with that? I know you can't cure it, can you? I mean, tell me more about that.
Well, that's a great question, Doug. I thought the same thing. And when I sold pharmaceutical drugs, it's nothing against the drug industries. You have to take your drugs when you need it, when you medication. But what about, and I don't hear this very often in family practice, internal medicine, what do you eat? What do you drink? How do you sleep? Those 3 words, those 3 questions changed my life. Eat, sleep, and drink. I was drinking soda, of course, alcohol, okay, but I cut out alcohol. And the last seizure I had was in 2011. again, with Wayne Dyer, the shift in my life, I was meditating. I was slowing down in life. I was being aware of fast food, of red dye 40, yellow dye, blue dye, chemicals in these foods. I was kind of like, oh, I ate this and I don't feel good. So what it's called, Doug, is an aura, or a small mole, or a petite mole. A petite mole is when I would start having the anxiety in my stomach and I would be kind of stressed, like, oh my gosh, there's that feeling. And then tingling down the arms would happen. Epileptics know this and are familiar with it. Petite mole has happened a lot in my life, thousands of times. But it would go away. I would kind of be like, oh, okay. And then the medication helped. After I stopped medication in 2011, again, before sobriety, I was just like meditation over medication. But then I'm drinking. And then it was insanity. Once I stopped drinking, the seizures went away because I was like, well, don't eat McDonald's. Okay, don't eat Del Taco. Don't eat all this processed food. And within about 3 years, the petite moles slowly dissipated. I never have them anymore. Sometimes there's, anxiety that we all have, a little stress, but I started acknowledging it. I started meditating and changing my lifestyle. So to me, I'm not saying I'm going to cure all. There's no cure all for it, but I was my own doctor through a different lifestyle versus drugs.
Yeah. So you changed your, became present, meditation, started watching what you put in your body. And you haven't had any seizures since that time?
Not since 2011. And in that point, I had a horrible seizure when I was running on the beach in Carlsbad at lunch one day for work. And I was hungover, but I would always go work out. It was like drink at night, work out in the day. And what happened, I felt the aura coming on. I went in my car and I had a seizure. And I wake up and you don't know where you are. You don't know who you are. You're completely amnesia. You can't even, I've had so many paramedics, probably at least 10 ambulance rides in my life. But I was so angry, like in a good way with my lifestyle. I was like, I got to stop drinking. And I just said, I'm done. Again, the medication went away. I tried other things like CBD, marijuana for a year. And once the jail happened, I just cut out everything. And every time an aura happened, the meditation, awareness, and prayer, I call it MAP, meditation, awareness, and prayer. So I meditated. I was aware and awake of what I was eating, the prayer or positive thinking if you don't pray, but just it helped me to kind of map my way to a new life. And they went away.
I've talked to plenty of people about things like this, and you hit, you thought you hit bottom, but you didn't really hit bottom until you hit bottom on the fourth DUI and whatnot. And so you're using yourself and your skills and your experience to treat yourself and to get better, whatnot. But I'm wondering, once you start getting better, how difficult was it to maintain that? I talked to a lot of people, yourself included, where, hey, things are getting better, and then you slip back and get better and you slip back. How did you transform it into a habit, a lifestyle, versus just a remedy?
Well, I got scared of drinking. The fear, Tony Robbins said it best, the 51% rule. 51% means like 49%, I'm like, I had excuses to keep drinking. And once I shifted over 51% and said there's just no going back, I was scared of drinking for one thing. If I drank, I knew I wasn't going to stop and I'd end up in jail. I have relatives too in my family that drink, and it's sad, but I see the decline and what happens to people. And I don't want to be a part of it. And in AA, it did help me for 3 or 4 years. And I was able to get into AA over and over again. But finally, I got into Celebrate Recovery. And after that, being in church as part of the church group, Celebrate Recoveries nationwide, worldwide, I helped a lot of people that way too. So just having the reminder every day, I didn't want to say I'm an alcoholic, but at the same time, I said I had to start a new life and start over again. So I just made the shift and never looked back. It wasn't even an option, put it that way.
Right. And your title has always interested me, thank you 1,000 to the 1,000th power. And you listed some things you're thankful for. And you list all the negative things first. Most people talk about the gratitude part of our lives. And hey, I'm grateful for living where I do, for my health, for my food, my family. But you listed a bunch of negative things you're grateful for. And yeah, we know there's like a silver lining in the dark cloud. We know these words and ideas, but how soon can you do that? Normally, if something hits you, there's a pain point, and then you got to go into like the gratitude. Do you do that like nowadays, where your gratitude happens faster, or does it still take time to get into that spot?
Yeah, I'm so aware of it. And in my book, in chapter 7, there's 7 magnificent steps to leading a happy life, a positive life, not just happy, like fake happy, like I'm happy, but the steps that I started taking were when like getting a ticket, for example. I remember I got a speeding ticket one time and I got pulled over, and I was like, at first I was angry and I was upset at the officer, right? The old me. The new me said, how can I learn? How can I grow? Of course I was speeding. Don't blame him. And within less than a minute, I was accepting of it. And then guess what? I go to the traffic, court and everything else. And I was relieved not to have that stress in my life. So the way I work in my life coaching and what I do for people too is like, don't focus on what happened, because you can't change what happened. You can focus on how you react to it and what's going on in your future. So if I focused on, I hate this, I hate the cops, I hate this, you hate's going to attract hate, right? You're going to keep in misery. So how can I learn? How can I grow? I work with epileptics like that, because a lot of epileptics are upset that they have seizures. Why me? Why do I have epilepsy? Why? Why? Not why, how? How can I learn? How can I grow?
Wow. So you can recover from, anxious moments like that in a minute or so. When you first started your method, your process, did it take you longer? Did you work on that time compression of that, get into that state, or is it?
Yeah, I would go months without even knowing it prior in my alcohol days of having anxiety, stress at work, things, and I would never even notice it. It's that spiritual awakening, that conscious mind, the connectivity of the heart and the mind, and eliminating between the mouthful of excuses, is what I say in the book. And because I had the connectivity without excuses, I was able to just say, this is what I need to go through in order to grow through it. And even when I got laid off 3 times when the market collapsed in 2008, remember? And 2008, 2009, I was selling timeshare. That wasn't selling. I was upset back then. And then in 13, when I shifted and got laid off again, but I was sober, I said, thank you. You know what? I want to do life coaching. I want to do something else. If I stayed focused, I would have kept attracting jobs that would have been laid off or fired or whatever. But I was able to start my business in that area. And I worked for John Assaraf, by the way, from The Secret out here in Rancho Santa Fe. And he's an amazing person. It was just like working with coaches. And I'm working with this mentor of mine that I watched, 5 years ago on The Secret. And then helping him in his business, I was like, this is great.
Full circle. So you mentioned you have like a 7-step method. Can you give us like the first 3 or 4 or something like that to show us what you got?
Part of it is the awareness of the epilepsy, the awareness of the addiction, and then understanding, accepting. So awareness, accepting, understanding. So the awareness sometimes came in my alcohol addiction. I wasn't aware of it. I didn't want to accept it, and I didn't want to understand it. The hard part for me, those 3 steps helped me. And even when I was sober, I had resentment that came up, and anger and hostility toward my biological father who was not there in my life. And that's what I realized. The alcohol was a substitution for the anger. I never had felt like that before, but when I had to acknowledge life and face the problems, those 7-step methods help people in that area to come to a shifting point and acknowledge that and say, this is what I need in order to grow. I have to be aware of it. Thank you. And then more steps on how to take action on it. And especially in a 28-day rehab, I call it, of positivity, when things don't go your way, don't always blame others. Don't always look at everybody else and say, see, I tried and I can't do it. Because sobriety, that happens a lot in sobriety. Well, I drank, screw it. But I think it's more of a test. Every time I did better and better, things came up. So it's this cycle. And the more you accept that downtime and learn from it, learn from the negative, grow in the positive. That helped me to really make that holy shift, I call it.
I love it. That's wonderful. You don't have to mention names, of course. I'd like to hear from one of your stories of one of the people you've helped out with epilepsy or any kind of recovery. I'd like to hear about another person's perspective on that.
Yeah, there's a wonderful lady that I've kept in touch with for 3 years now in Russia. And of all places, people see my channel, like on YouTube, it's under Coach Stefan Rudolph. You can subscribe, like, and share there. And she saw the videos where I have one from 7 years ago. I just went in my RV office at the time, and I put a sheet up in the background. It's kind of funny. And I just said, here's my story. It's got 14,000 views now, which is a lot for my little channel. And people all over the world see it. And what she did was, oh my gosh, I'm not alone. I don't want to take this medication anymore. I think it is something I'm eating, my lifestyle, her relationship. So I worked with her for about a year off and on. And then she's able to change her mind. Now, I'm not saying I'm curing the epilepsy, but she says, I'm getting more sleep. I'm, not drinking at all. She cut out the alcohol. It wasn't a big thing for her, but she cut out any substances that she didn't need.
Yeah.
And then she got the sleep, the medication, and eating. I said, if you had an aura yesterday, what did you drink? And she would say, well, I don't know. I had a soda. What's the big deal? That could be the aspartame, the carbonate, anything in there. We don't know, but just, hey, that little thing, mark it on your diet journal and take it out. And those things helped her too. So I think she's doing, let's say, 50% better with the holistic help. Wonderful. And when I hear that, other people in Germany and other people message me and say, hey, are you still doing epilepsy coaching? And, I get my story out there. So I'm glad I can help others.
Outstanding. I love that. If you want all 7 steps, folks, go ahead and get the book. The link is below. Thank You to the Thousandth Power by Stefan Rudolph. Hold that book up. There we go. There we go.
Yeah,
there it is.
It's under thankyou1000.com and also on Audible under commandtoexpand.com. I bought that domain name, Command to Expand, because we have the command and we have to expand and face it in order to erase it. So part of it, one quote I'll give you right here says, uncover, recover, discover life. And I had to uncover a new life, closer to closure, it says, the closing chapter of my past life in order to open a new life. So
beautiful. Yeah. Good job. I appreciate you. Folks, get this book. He's a great guy, good wisdom there. Whether you're recovering or know somebody who is, whether it's addiction or epilepsy, there's some valuable information there for you. And boy, I appreciate you being on the show today, Stefan. Appreciate it very much.
Yeah, thanks, Doug. Again, you're doing an amazing job all over the world. You're always traveling. I don't know where you're at, what you're doing. So it's always great to finally connect and not overheat. We had a little spell right there, but
okay.
in my phone overheating. But I love what you're doing. So keep up the great work. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, so check the link below here, folks. Check out Stefan's book, and thank you very much. Talk to you later.
Take care.
Thank you.